All right, thank you so much for staying with us. I have Ortega Ogra. He's a senior special assistant to President Bola Tinubu on digital and new media. Thank you so very much for joining the program and starting the week with us on Business Nigeria.
Thank you very much for having me today.
Yes, I think we should start with this good news. As it comes to us, we've seen $3.4 billion repayment and all of that. What does it mean to you and, of course, presidency? What does that mean, and also for us as Nigerians?
So thank you very much. I mean, we're all happy that we're finally able to clear the IMF loan, which was the RFI that was taken in post-COVID, during COVID, to support a lot of interventions that the government then was doing. However, it was put upon this current administration because of the 3-year moratorium to repay this debt, and we have dutifully done so, as we are doing with a lot of other, external loans that Nigeria has collected over the past. And if you look at the data, external loans are actually decreasing. I've not seen the data for last month, but as of December, we've seen significant decrease in dollar terms of our loans. And what that tells us, as a people, is that we're prioritizing sound financial management, sound fiscal discipline, and our commitments to our creditors in order for us to be in good standing, so that we can always go back to the markets, seek for better concession loans, and also rework our books to ensure that we are not spending unnecessarily on high interest loans, for the country.
That seems to be like a good one. But let's flip into the budget before we also move further. What do you also make about some projections around the 2025 budget, looking at what is happening globally and how it affects us as a country?
So, I mean, the budget projections and all that, yes, I know that's a big issue. But if the last, 2 years has taught us one thing, is that I am very confident in my principal, President Bola Tinubu, and his economic management team to see us through whatever global shocks we're currently having. I mean, the oil prices are currently going down, as you've seen it, as we all know. It's enough to give jitters to anybody. But we have prioritized, cutting wastages in this government. We have prioritized, putting money towards infrastructure, towards things that are sustainable for the long term to bring about prosperity to the Nigerian people. So I know, and then we've also drawn down on, we've paid down on a lot of our, foreign debts in favor of more local, local debts on our books. And I think that's something that only foresight could have prepared us for. I'm sure the Minister of the Coordinating Minister of Finance and the Economy, and the relevant necessary ministers and agencies, as well as the President, are looking at how we're going to move through these next few months, with the current global economic headwinds. But I am very, very confident, and I can see more people, local and foreign investors, taking a bet on Nigeria. And if anyone is not doing that at the moment, then there's a chance the person loses out from the benefits that would come on taking a bet on this country.
Let's move to looking at the reforms now, which, of course, it's the talk of the town. That's been the talk for some time. And the fallout of these reforms. We've seen some positives with the central bank, improved reserves, improved net reserves. But, a man on the street would ask you, how does this impact in my pocket? Now, what sort of interventions do you think, as a senior special assistant to the president, should be instituted at this time that would trickle down to address the fallout of this reform?
So, yes. I think one of the biggest issues Nigeria has had for decades across multiple administrations is that we had always focused on fixing short-term issues whilst ignoring, the long-term ones, pushing it down the line for another administration or some miracle to happen. The time for that is over. Nigeria cannot continue to gamble with our future. We cannot keep using short-term solutions for long-term problems. We're going to get into the kind of trouble that we found, coming into this administration. For the common man, it is very important that the basis upon which this economy is going to be stable and grow for the long term is solid. The man on the streets, it's trickle-down economics. You build your industries, you create an enabling environment for individuals and businesses to thrive, and you support people across the value chain. You also invest in palliatives and things for those that are underserved and those that do not have the capacity to, be productive in this sort of economy. So it's a three-pronged approach. On one side, we have cut the wastages, we have fixed a lot of the gaps, we are dealing with a lot of the bleedings, we are restructuring our books. On the second side, we are ensuring that, businesses, industries, and co have an opportunity to thrive within this environment. And you can see that last year, I've been looking at a lot of 2024 full-year reports of a lot of organizations and businesses, publicly listed ones, across various sectors. And the numbers have been good. These are people who have taken a bet on Nigeria. These are people that saw to the long term. These are people that keyed into the renewed hope agenda of Mr. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. And we can see the value that we're getting as a country. We know it's not been easy. I'll be one of the first to say it's been extremely difficult for a lot of Nigerians. But as the president said, we need to cut the costs, we need to fix the bends, we need to summon courage and save money, to ensure that the economy grows. But most importantly, we also need to create more opportunities for a productive economy, which is what we're doing. And I'm sure that as time goes on, the balance of payments last year and our trade surplus, for the first time in many years, after 2 years of, consistent negative balance, is something that we should be happy about. 6.8 billion or so was what's in the Sabian's balance of payments report was what we saw. That is going to now start trickling down to the young persons. I saw someone complaining online the other day and saying, oh, why are they building the roads, the Lagos-Calabar Expressway or the Sokoto-Badagry Expressway? Why is the South getting most of these things? It's not about the South. It's ensuring that alongside the SAPZs, which are the special agro-processing zones, a lot of our smallholder farmers, a lot of our big farmers can move their goods quickly from farm to market in as quick a time as possible, or from farm to ports. We need to cut out that time that takes, produce from the farms to storage, to transportation and everything into the markets where they want to get to, whether local or international. And that is why we're doing, so it's a multi-pronged, multifaceted, multi-sectoral approach that we're applying to the economy. We are not going to look at one side and deny the other side, the injection that it needs to grow. But to the everyday man on the street, I want to once again appeal, just as Mr. President has appealed consistently, we have stopped most of the bleeding. We have removed most of the cabals from a lot of sectors within the key sectors of this economy. And we are going full force in ensuring that all sectors of the economy, all critical sectors of the economy, get the necessary impetus, get the necessary push that they need to thrive in a Nigeria that we know is turning the tide for good. So people should bear with us a little bit more. Salaries have been increased. The minimum wage has been increased. We all know about that. We're introducing a credit economy. So you're seeing a lot of money in the systems. We say there is no money. Yes, we're seeing volumes rise amongst FMCGs. We're seeing volumes rise amongst manufacturers who are in the FMCG sector. That is a good pointer to how the economy is going. It simply means people have more disposable income, despite the fact that inflation has been high. There's a lot more disposable income for people to buy things, especially because we've also introduced a credit economy across things. There's Credit Core, which is ensuring that you can buy a lot of things. Why do you as a civil servant or you as a low-income earner go and pay full amount for something you want to buy when you can, take some credits and spread the payment responsibly over a period of time? Nel Fund also is another way we're introducing the credit economy to Nigerian people. With Nel Fund now, a lot of parents do not need to pay hundreds of thousands to send the children to school every year. That money is saved and is put towards, doing other things that can be more beneficial and improve the quality of lives of the average family. So it's a multi-pronged approach, and we're also looking at, like I said earlier, giving palliatives to people across Nigeria who are underserved, who do not have the, maybe they're retired and they don't have people taking care of them, or who just don't have the capacity at the moment, to, bring about a productive economy to them and the families.
Interesting stuff. Now, you deal with digital economy and new media, and you would agree with me that digital transformation is a game changer, of course, in consumer engagement. Now, what role really is government playing in accelerating digital infrastructure? I want us to talk about this because the youth will be interested in knowing about this. What is playing and what is happening?
So first things first, digital is somewhere, despite this funny joke, during the election period, digital is something that's very, very close to Mr. President's heart. and it pays full total attention to it. And not just digital, digital economy on in its own, but also digital governance and bringing governance closer to the people. We all know, we've heard of what the Ministry of the Digital Economy Ministry is doing, and you see investments in broadband coverage for the entire 704 local governments of this country, creating an enabling environment for, digital skills, tech skills to thrive. A lot of projects, tech export programs, trainings and all that, they all form part of, a basket of things that we're doing in the digital space. The president also recently was named the Digital Economy Ambassador, Digital Trade Ambassador for Africa. I think it's important that we know that in trade in Nigeria today, services already account for over 50% of our trade. And, the ICT and digital space, it takes about 10% of that 50%. I mean, some say the numbers are more if you include the informal sector, and those are not currently covered under our economic metrics. But that being said, there are still gaps that we know we need to fill. We cannot get to the nadir of where we need to get to in the digital space if we don't do certain things. If that the broadband penetration does not increase, if we don't have, consistent power, whilst the government is actually doing a lot of work in ensuring that, we get power to the people, or at the very, very least, if there's no digital identity, and that's something that, NIMSI and a lot of agencies around that are working on. So I think as time goes on, you're seeing improved investments across infrastructure from the telcos, from the site holders. In Nigeria has a huge, what do you call it again? A huge data center, sector run by Nigerians, for Nigerians, for Africa, Nigeria and Africa. So a lot of things are going on at the same moment, but all of them, there's a thread that runs through that. It's that understanding by this administration, the Tinubu-Shettima administration, that digital is the way to go. We cannot, go into the fourth industrial revolution. Even in terms of manufacturing, digital is key. But all the components, all the infrastructure, the skills that needs to get us to that point, this government is prioritizing that and ensuring that we boost, our digital skills, our digital knowledge, our digital infrastructure, and most importantly, that we create an environment where we can use the digital space, just like my office is concerned, to bridge that governance divide. It is one thing to do a lot of these things, to do all this work. Is another thing to be able to reach the most masses in the most efficient manner. And that's what my office has been doing so far. Thank you very much.
How challenging has that been? I really like to ask, because it's a lot of work when you see what is happening on the social media platform. And what do you think about the contribution of that segment to GDP? Do you see an improvement anytime soon?
I trust Nigerian youth, because a lot of young people are the drivers of the digital revolution going on in Nigeria and Africa. Africa today has about 12 unicorns. Guess how many percent of that are Nigerians? 6. Half of that. And a lot of this were done even without some of the things we have put in place, some of the infrastructure we have put in place, some of the policies that we have put in place to drive growth in that sector. Now imagine what Nigerian youth will do with the commencement of those things. For instance, the startups bill and all that, the AI drive by the Nigerian government. Imagine what our Nigerian youth, we're going to be making gold out of the digital space. And I for investors watching, I said it's a business show, whether home or abroad, you need to start taking a bet on Nigerian, fintech, Nigerian digital, companies, because that is the way to go for Africa. We are the leaders already. We're going to continue to lead. And Mr. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is not going to blink an eye to provide the support that he needs to provide to every young Nigerian who is in that space, or even to the economy, to those who have established business, to ensure that we continue to support, the whole economy through the digital space.
Looking ahead, what policy frameworks should we be expecting? Of course, with regards to digital space and all of that.
Come again, please.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Yeah, I said looking ahead, what policy frameworks or reforms should we be expecting around the digital space? And what is your outlook for that segment? Maybe medium to short to medium and long term.
Yeah, so for the short term, I've seen a lot of estimates saying that the contribution of the digital space to the Nigerian economy, that's our GDP, should rise to about 18 to 20% by December 2025.
Yeah.
That would be very, very impressive if we can get to that. And I know the Ministry of Communications and Digital Economy is doing a whole lot, trying to get us to that point. It might not be, the things that gets, your TV headlines or your newspaper headlines, because the work at this point is unflattering. Fiber optic cables are being laid across the country. The funds for that is already here. The funds are already engendering that growth. Infrastructure, whether it's from the telco side, you see that the latest reports from NCC show that there's been a growth despite, what people thought to be an hindrance to the growth of the telecommunications industry. There's been a growth in the number of new SIM cards being registered and being used in Nigeria. That is a plus. That's to show you that, you see the number of people doing content, and we're seeing digital being integrated into every other thing, from agri to healthcare, amongst other, key critical sectors. So in the short term, I foresee a place where we're going to move from just policy to actual work. We're going to see from policy to production. We're going to see people actually taking advantage of those policies that have already been put in place to drive, digital transformation. On the government side, in the short term to the medium term, I want to see us, start to look at other areas where we do not have an edge currently. AI, I love the work NCIR, the National Center for AI, and Industrial AI Revolution is going on. I love the work that they're doing. They're partnering with Nigerian companies to develop Nigerian or local LLMs, that can answer our own questions, that can do what we want, speaking out in the way we speak, and provide the results that we kind of need. Because today, AI models that we find across the world, they don't serve the purposes for which we serve. They are not tailored to the African perspective. They are not tailored to our cultures. They are not tailored to our music, our dance, our arts and culture. So I expect to see that change going on there. In the medium term, I expect to see a lot more done in the digital infrastructure space in terms of digital identification. NIMSI is doing a lot of work and the relevant agencies under the ministry. But we cannot grow as a country, without getting data right. Data is the basis upon which everything thrives. Data is the basis upon which we can plan effectively for now, we can plan effectively for the midterm, and we can plan effectively for the long term. So, and there are projects already going on. I'm sure even the population census that's coming up is going to rely a lot on some of the progress we have made in the digital space. And that was a charge from Mr. President. So we intend to see that. I also expect to see a lot of Nigerian companies, coming up, or a lot of partnerships in this space that already exist. I don't see a reason why we're not seeing agri-companies partnering with the telcos, to build full scalable agri-tech companies. I'm not seeing why we're not using that in our irrigation. A lot of automation is going on in government agricultural extension programs, from introduction of irrigation activities using AI, using geomapping and all that. So there are gaps, there are areas there are opportunities for growth. And those who decide right now to take a bet on Nigeria in these sectors, especially the digital space, are those who are going to be the billionaires of the future. The future of Nigeria is not bleak. And I keep repeating this every platform I get. We need to start shouting this out the top of our voices, from the top of our roofs and everything. The time for Nigeria is now. Don't be caught left out of this trend that is going on, where we're going to see a positive change in our needs, in our growth, in our development as a country. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ortega Ogras, Senior Special Assistant to the President of Digital and New Media. Thank you for spending your Monday afternoon with us. We appreciate this. Do enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you very much.
All right,
have a wonderful afternoon.
All right, you too. Well, still to come on the show, we'll look at pros and cons of Nigeria's first policy.